now I'm going to jump into our first workshop, which is retargeting. What is retargeting? Well, mocap 101, right? We have IR cameras, shining IR light, bouncing off of these retroreflective markers back at the camera and the orthogonal rays, all interconnect so that we can look at the trajectories and recreate where these markers are in 3D space. Once we know where the markers are, we can tie that to what we know about biomechanics because we've been around for nearly 39 years, and we can recreate a skeleton. We are streaming that skeleton out in real time to whatever you need. Your game engine, you could bypass Motion Builder, you could go straight into a game engine live and get final quality content in real time. And that's really important, but sometimes your actor, your talent, is going to be driving something that is anatomically different than them. And in that case, we're going to have Gina potentially driving a dragon, a skeleton, an ogre, whatever it might be. You're going to need to change, right, how that skeleton is attached to your model. And through that, to do that, you need retargeting. Either you use a third-party program for it, or you can use Vicon retargeting. So to talk about how that works and how we came to develop it, I'm going to introduce Ed, our head of VFX product, to talk you through it.
Cheers, Jeff. Cheers, Gina. Hey folks, welcome to the Vicon booth. So we have for the past 30 years specialized in systems that capture motion, and we do this via a number of methods. The method that we're showing on the booth today is called optical motion capture, and how this works is we will have a marker such as these that are retroreflective. These will sit in a volume and they will be tracked by the specialist Vicon motion capture cameras you see above you. Each of those cameras tracks the location of these markers in 2 dimensions, and then all that data goes to one central PC where Vicon's Shōgun Live triangulates all those positions into locations in 3D space. So what this means is anything that we want to capture the motion of, we can attach one of these markers, and whether it's a person, whether it's a prop, whether it's a T-Rex in some sort of Jurassic Park type scenario, we have confidence that we can capture the motion of that particular subject. Now, why that's important is predominantly for things such as animation. So animation is a skill, it's a craft, it takes time. There's a lot of skill that goes into capturing animations that are believable and accurate. Someone who isn't an animator, we can often take for granted just how much subtlety and nuance there is to emotion. You can think of the way you move as essentially being your fingerprint in motion. You can tell a lot about a person's mood by the way they carry their shoulders. You can tell a lot about their physical condition by how they walk. All those subtleties and nuance take a long time to capture when we are animating by hand. So what motion capture allows us to do is bypass that process and go straight to the source, getting the accuracy and the reality of an actual performance and digitizing that. Now, while that's incredibly helpful from a production perspective, what it also does is gives us some options in terms of how we empower the creators who are using these software products. Now, the 2 words that always strike fear into a lot of VFX artists or creators' minds is just imagine. Whenever we say just imagine, we are inviting ambiguity. We all have to work together on these things, and when we say imagine what this character will look like, imagine what this thing will look like, we invite interpretation. Interpretation can change between people involved with the project. What we want to do is, as early into the process as possible, have clarity on exactly what it is that we are trying to achieve. And that's really important for things like games or movies, where we're driving characters that are perhaps beyond our imagination. There are characters that don't exist. This is where processes such as retargeting are really important, because it allows us to take the data of a performer such as Gina and take that data onto a subject that we've created. So to give you a quick example of how this works, Mitchell, our Genius support, is going to put together a retarget, which is going to take the skeleton from Gina, take all that motion, and then put it onto the character that we've created. So while Gina is obviously humanoid, we want to drive a character that's less so humanoid. So in this case, we've gone for a giant turtle monster. Cliché, I know. But what's important to recognize about this monster that is perhaps inconsistent with Gina is the presence of a tail, or a shell, or a beak. These are all things where we want to say to creators, do not feel limited in your imagination. Create the monsters and the characters that you want to have as part of your vision. Our software will then help you apply the motion from your performer onto that character. So what we're doing here is we have two skeletons. The white skeleton is that one from our performer, and the pink skeleton is that of our character that we want to retarget to. Where we have areas of similarity, we can transpose that information like for like, but in areas of the body which Gina is perhaps missing, such as the tail, we can just turn that data off, so we don't have to worry about any motion accidentally being applied to that character. And once we've gone through that process, we can then take that data into Shōgun Live, please, Mitch. And then when we load up, so this is our standard character. Gina is being captured in real time, super smooth, super high quality. We can then take the retarget skeleton we've just created and put that into Shōgun Live, and in just a couple of seconds, we have a living, breathing Mocapasaur, or Barry, as we also like to call it. But what's really cool about this is in the space of maybe 10 minutes, we have calibrated our character. We have taken her data and set up a retarget onto the character that we designed earlier, taken that into live, and now we can actually see what that's going to look like. Now this is important not just from a creator perspective, but from a performer's perspective, because no longer do we need to say to the performer, imagine what you would look like with a shell. We can show Gina what she looks like with a shell. Imagine what you would look like with longer arms. This gives the performers the information they can use to enhance their performance and really just focus on bringing that character to life. And what we can also do is put an interactive element into that. So if we could please invite Victor to join the scene as well. As impressive as a giant turtle monster is, it's only half as impressive as also being fighting against a giant robot with a rocket launcher for an arm. Again, cliche. But the basic idea of this is that we don't want to limit people. You can only do one retarget. Whatever a creator has in mind, whatever incredible scene they want to create, we want to give them the tools to do that. So what this means is straight away your director can come onto set and have an idea what this is going to look like in real time. This also means that the performers can then modulate their performance. They may realize that the idea they had as to how this character would look and feel suddenly needs to change now that we know what it looks like in real time. They can make compensations for the sizes, those differences in proportions. Now these are all things that historically you wouldn't be able to do, but because through the power of Shōgun Live we can bring all this data into real time, this gives creators and performers the power they need to really have a sense of what they are working towards. Now as cool as this is, one of the things I said earlier that we want to avoid is the sentence, just imagine. At the moment, just imagine this as a game. Well, that could mean a million different things to a million different people. So why don't we just take that data straight into Unreal Engine and we can actually see what that would look like as a game. So now we have gone from no setup to two characters completely calibrated into this volume, two completely original character skins, and that data has been transposed straight onto those actors in real time. What this means is now your creator, your director, your artist has a far more detailed view of what the final product will look like. And this makes decisions like what do we do about lighting, what do we want to do to enhance this creature further, far more informed, because no longer are we guessing or imagining. People can all be on the same page as to how their creation is developing. Now, I know why you're all really here. You want to see a giant robot fight a giant monster. So with no further ado, could we please have some violence? And away we go. Action. So one of the things you'll notice is obviously we have two characters that are different proportionally from their actors. This means that by watching the real-time stream, the actors can compensate for that or account for it in their actual performance. So now, when Victor goes to strike the Mocapasaur, he can compensate for the difference between the two bodies in his performance. And this is all really important information because previously you might not get this until far later in the process. This means that as part of the pre-visualization stage, directors or character artists have this real-time feedback. They understand what they're looking at and what's going to go into the final product, and then they can account for those creative or technical changes on the fly. It just means that the process would have previously taken weeks or months to go through can now be facilitated in days, if not hours. And I think the monster is going to have a massive, massive laser blast. Yes, and of course the monster always wins. We should probably start taking bets, but we're pretty much sure that Gina always wins. And as the Valkabot powers down, if I could ask our actors to please return to T-pose, we'll end the take there. And could I please get a rapturous, enthusiastic round of applause for our actors? So that's a really brief kind of summary overview of retargeting. If you have any questions, please come and see our excellent support team. They'll happily speak to you in more detail, as will I. If you go around the corner, you will find our new markerless solution. Thank you very much for your time and enjoy Siggraph, guys. Thank you.